Chinese people are more pessimistic about the future than ever. How bad is China's economy? Every sector is declining. The number of foreclosure houses in mainland China has increased sharply, and they are no longer selling. A joint research report recently released by Harvard University and Stanford University shows that the number of Chinese people who are optimistic about China's economic prospects has dropped sharply by 26% in the past 10 years. Whether it is the lower-class people, the middle class, or the social elite, they are facing threats such as salary cuts, unemployment, declining quality of life, and bankruptcy. According to incomplete statistics, rights protection incidents in various parts of China have surged to more than 6,000 in the past 2 years. The study found that in 2004, nearly 60% of the respondents believed that their family's economic situation was better than 5 years ago, and they were optimistic about the prospects 5 years later. However, data from 2023 showed that only 38.8% of people felt that their economic situation had improved compared to the past, and the number of people who expected the future to be better fell to 47%, a 26% drop from the peak in 2014. In addition, the proportion of people who are pessimistic about the future has risen from 2.3% in 2004 to 16% in 2023. Some analysts believe that the reckless actions of the Chinese Communist Party authorities are the direct cause of China's economic downturn. Current affairs commentator Fang Yuan said that the retrograde top-level design of China's economy has caused society to lose motivation and the economy to regress. It is difficult for people to plan and evaluate the future in an environment where orders change every day. How can they be optimistic about the future? Xi'an, a professor at the Aiken School of Business at the University of South Carolina, said that after the epidemic, it is difficult for Chinese people to benefit from economic growth and accumulate wealth. Coupled with the bursting of the real estate bubble, the wealth of the whole population has shrunk rapidly, which has shattered the illusion that the economy will only get better. According to data from the Xi'an Net under the US-based nonprofit organization Freedom House, China's protests in the second quarter of 2024 increased by 18% compared with the same period last year. From June 2022 to date, the website has recorded nearly 6,400 such incidents. Kevin Slatton, editor of Xi'an Net, said that at least 3/4 of the cases were caused by economic dissatisfaction. It has been observed that protests led by rural residents and blue-collar workers against land acquisition, demolition, and low wages have increased. In addition, the middle class has also started more protests due to the real estate crisis. How bad is China's economy? Every sector is declining. How bad is China's economy, given weak consumer spending, global resistance to Chinese dumped goods, and the fact that the real estate market has not yet stopped falling and stabilized? Beijing launched a package of stimulus measures in September, including interest rate cuts and reserve requirement ratio cuts, but the outside world doubts that these measures are enough to solve economic problems. This fall, the vast majority of global banks expect that China's economy will not achieve the 5% growth target set by the Communist Party of China. More than 4/5 of economists surveyed by Bloomberg predict that China's GDP growth will not reach 5% in 2024, and analysts, including Bank of America, question the fiscal and monetary policies of the Communist Party of China. At present, domestic deflationary pressures in China are rising, with new home prices falling the most since 2014 and consumer confidence falling to the lowest point in a year and a half. Beijing is still determined to implement the policy of high-end manufacturing and exports to promote economic recovery, but trade itself faces risks. Although exports have reached the highest level in nearly 2 years, the unit price of goods is falling, and foreign countries are increasingly wary of Beijing's new round of cheap goods shockwaves. There is a lot of debate about whether China's economy will fall into a decade of stagnation similar to Japan's. Every sector of China's economy is declining. Simply put, every sector of China's economy is in trouble. When the CCP lifted COVID restrictions and reopened the border at the end of 2022, people had optimistically predicted that Chinese people would engage in revenge shopping, dining out, and traveling, boosting consumption and the economy. But the boost was short-lived and soon disappeared against the backdrop of people's concerns about economic growth, falling house prices, unemployment, and income. As of September, manufacturing activity has been in contraction since April 2023, with only 3 months as an exception. China's share of global manufacturing is as high as 30%. Its manufacturing trade surplus accounts for a large share of world GDP and has grown at an average rate of 2% in the past. China's manufacturing scale is larger than the combined manufacturing surpluses of Japan and Germany at their peak. Foreign governments worry that they can't resist the production growth rate of China's manufacturing industry. When China's production growth rate exceeds its own demand, or the global economic growth rate, the rest of the world can only be forced to scale down or even close industries. In addition, the scale of the CCP's industrial subsidy support is shocking, far exceeding that of other countries. Research by the think tank Center for Strategic and International Studies, CSIS, found that China spends about 5% of its GDP on industrial subsidies, which is 10 times that of the United States, Brazil, Germany, and Japan. In industries such as semiconductors, steel, and aluminum, China's subsidies account for 80% to 90% of global subsidies. On the other hand, weak Chinese demand has also hurt the profits of foreign automakers from Stellantis NV to Aston Martin. At the same time, global consumer brands from Starbucks to Estée Lauder have also found that sales in the Chinese market have plummeted, and Chinese consumers are increasingly looking to save money. The most telling indicator of fragile domestic confidence is that Chinese bank loans to the real economy shrank for the first time in 19 years this summer. Local governments, which are already cash-strapped and burdened with hidden debts, have also been dragged down by the housing market crash. Local land sales revenues have been falling at a record pace, making it more difficult to reverse the decline in budget spending when the economy is in desperate need of fiscal support. The youth unemployment rate rose for the second consecutive month in August, reaching the highest level this year. This unemployment rate indicator is a figurative indicator that was just put into use after the Chinese Communist Party changed its statistical caliber. International urban explorer Darman Richter told the British newspaper Express that the city has a post-apocalyptic feel that doesn't compare to anywhere else he's been. Even in Chernobyl, you tend to run into other tour groups or see the furniture rearranged by the countless photographers who visited before you, Mr. Richter said. Kangbashi district was utterly untouched, though, and walking through the silent streets was an unnerving experience. The number of foreclosure houses in mainland China has increased sharply, and they are no longer selling. As the mainland real estate market has fallen into a trough, foreclosure houses, which are jokingly called bargain hunting by the people, have also become unsaleable. Some people think that it is a good deal to buy a discounted foreclosure house, but some people who bought a foreclosure house cannot move in, and they are caught in a dilemma. Therefore, foreclosure houses are questioned as minefields with many pits. Rapid growth of foreclosure houses and no longer selling. The so-called foreclosure houses are actually houses auctioned by judicial institutions. In recent years, the number of foreclosure houses in mainland China has increased rapidly. If we only look at residential foreclosure houses, according to statistics from the China Index Academy, there were 37,800 foreclosure houses on sale in mainland China in 2015. By 2023, there will be nearly 370,000 residential foreclosure houses on sale nationwide, nearly 10 times the number. However, the clearance rate of residential foreclosure houses, that is, the proportion of sold properties in total, has not risen with the surge in the number of foreclosure houses. reaching 55.5% in 2018, which is the peak. After that, it has been declining, and the clearance rate is only 29.4% in 2023. This shows that less than 3 out of every 10 residential foreclosure houses are bought. At the same time, there are more and more cases of second auctions of foreclosure houses. If no one bids for the first auction of foreclosure houses, it will be regarded as unsold and auctioned again at a lower discount. The auction of foreclosure houses in the first half of 2024 showed that the second auction accounted for the highest proportion of transactions, which was 47%, an increase of 7% over the same period in 2023, while the first auction accounted for 37%. Behind the online foreclosure houses, where are so many foreclosure houses that cannot be sold at a reduced price distributed? According to data from the China Index Academy, by province, in 2023, there will be more than 10,000 residential foreclosure houses in 18 provinces, municipalities, and autonomous regions, of which Guangdong and Henan have the most, with 37,400 and 31,800, respectively. Despite the large number of foreclosure houses in these provinces, the clearance speed is not in the leading position. In first-tier cities where the average price of second-hand houses is about tens of thousands of yuan per square meter, some people think it is a good deal to buy a discounted foreclosure house. Some netizens summarized it as, the first auction is to buy at the bottom, and the second auction is to find bargains. However, the foreclosure houses that are found are not mainly from criminal assets forcibly confiscated by the case-handling authorities. Haunted houses, 1 yuan starting auction, and assets of fallen big tigers are more of a gimmick. Bankruptcy assets and properties that are actively chosen for disposal are a minority in foreclosure houses. Nowadays, the foreclosure houses listed on the internet are mostly litigation assets from debt disputes. Behind them are ordinary people whose economic conditions have deteriorated one after another, and more people cannot pay their mortgages. When the property market was good, many people bought houses at the highest point, but suddenly encountered business failures or layoffs and were unable to repay their mortgages, or even became insolvent. According to EY's China's Listed Banks 2023 Review and Future Outlook, the default rate of personal housing loans has been rising, regardless of whether it is a large bank, an urban commercial bank, or a rural commercial bank. Taking all listed banks as an example, it has increased from 0.32% in 2021 to 0.71% in 2024.